With the stock market recovering after 2 very bad years, there is no doubt that there's going to be a lot of beginner investors looking to get into the markets for the first time, not knowing anything about how the taxes work. So in this video, I'm going to go through all the key tax information that you need to know for the tax years from 2024 to 2025 as a new investor based within the UK. Now, before I start, I must note that I am not a tax professional or a financial advisor or anything like that. I am just someone who's made a living off of research, and I aim to try to get the most accurate information out to my audience. So that being said, let's talk about tax. So a tax year doesn't run from January to the January of next year. Instead, it runs from the 6th of April each year to the following year's April 5th. Now, this is called a tax year, and the information on this video is specific to the tax years 2024 to 2025. Usually within each tax year, there are some subtle changes in the tax. So if you're watching this at a later time, please do bear that in mind. So the whole purpose of investing is that you are growing your long-term wealth so that eventually you can take out some of this money as income. And as we know in the UK, everything that is income based is also taxed. Now, when you're investing, the first way that you could make money is through capital gain. Essentially, what capital gains is when you buy something at a certain price and you sell it at a different price. The difference between those prices can be a gain, so it can be positive, making that a capital gain. And later on, we'll talk a bit about capital losses. So each year you do get an allowance that you are allowed to have a certain amount in tax-free gains, and anything exceeding that number is taxed at your specific tax rate. Now, the capital gains allowance has been halved from last year, which was 6,000, and more than halved from the previous tax year at 12,300. So this tax year's capital gains allowance is only £3,000. For example, if I bought £10,000 worth of Apple and then I sold Apple at £20,000, I'll be making a gain of £10,000, meaning that, for example, in this situation, I'm liable to be paying tax on £7,000 on my gains. Now, it is worth noting that you can get capital gains outside of investing. For example, selling property. So for residential property, the taxes are different, but also you can get capital gains for selling things such as artwork and other things which will have their own taxes. Because taxes get very complicated very quickly depending on your personal circumstances, please speak to a tax advisor or an accountant, as this is generally assuming that you only invest and any capital gains and dividend income, strictly speaking, is from investing only. So if you are a basic rate taxpayer that's paying 20% tax on your income, you'll be paying 10% on capital gains tax all the way until you're pushed into a higher tax band from this extra income. So if your income exceeds £50,270, including income from investments, then you'll be paying 20% on any capital gains. Of course, in the UK, the tax is staggered, meaning that you don't pay 20% on everything. First, you pay the 10% until you get into the next tax bracket, and then you pay 20% on any capital gains surpassing that amount. If you are a higher rate or additional rate taxpayer, you pay 20% on any capital gains that exceeds your allowance. Capital gains, therefore, is one of the most tax efficient ways in generating wealth, because even if you are a higher rate taxpayer, you're only paying 20% on any capital gains that you're making, meaning that if you have a very large stock portfolio, which most investors are trying to get to, you can easily draw out income paying only 20% max from any capital gains. Now, it is also worth mentioning that you can reduce the amount of tax you pay on capital gains if you have any capital losses. So for example, in the same example, if we bought £10,000 worth of Apple stock and for whatever reason we sold out of this 10,000 when it was 50% down, selling that at £5,000, we have now made a capital loss of £5,000. This essentially gives us £5,000 extra that we can have in capital gains from other investments, essentially making our capital gains allowance in this specific example to £8,000. This includes our £5,000 in losses and £3,000 in capital gains. Let's say, for example, later we made £20,000 of capital gains for selling shares in Aston Martin, for example. Then we can take our £20,000 and then minus our £3,000 capital gains allowance and then our £5,000 of capital losses. However, in order to do this, you need to claim for your capital losses by reporting it to HMRC via self-assessment. If you've never made a self-assessment before, you can actually contact HMRC directly and let them know. You don't have to report losses straight away. You get up to 4 years from when the loss is made need to actually report it in your self-assessment. For example, I've made a couple of losses where the companies have gone into bankruptcy 2 years ago. If I exceed my capital gains this year, I can use that to offset some of my gains. Therefore, my losses 2 years ago kind of mean nothing in terms of paying tax on them, which is really good to see. The most important thing about capital gains, however, is that you don't pay any capital gains tax unless you sell an asset. So for example, you can hold on to shares of Apple for as long as you want, and you don't have to pay any capital gains tax unless you sell, and you're only really paying tax if you're making a profit, and you don't pay any taxes on any losses you make. Like I said before, is one of the most powerful ways of generating wealth, as you really don't have to pay any tax just on the point of when you're selling. Therefore, if you are a trader and you're buying and selling lots, you do have to take into consideration that you're probably going to be paying more in capital gains than people who are holding onto their stocks for a long term. If you're investing, it is highly recommended anyway that you hold on to your assets for the long term, as the stock market over the long horizon does seem to trend upwards, but that being said, your capital is always at risk and it's always worth diversifying your portfolio. The other way you can make money when you're investing is through dividend payments. Dividend payments are essentially cash payouts from companies that incentivize shareholders to hold on to the shares, and it's a distribution of their profits. So if a company is doing well and they're making lots of profits, they might want to increase their dividends, showing gratitude to their shareholders. And this can also come quite regularly, so a lot of companies do pay out 4 times a year. This is per quarter. This means if you're holding on to lots of dividends from different companies, you can actually get somewhat of a regular income from them. And with any income, of course, there is tax that you have to pay on it. So every year you get a specific dividend allowance. Last year it was £1,000, the year before it was £2,000, but this tax year, 2024 to 2025, you only have £500 of dividend allowance. Anything you receive in dividends that exceeds that, you must pay according to your tax bracket. Now, if you are a basic rate taxpayer, you're going to be paying 8.75% on any dividends earned above £500. If you are a higher rate taxpayer, you're going to be paying 33.75%. And if you are an additional rate taxpayer, you're going to be paying a mighty 39.35% in tax for dividends. If you receive less than £10,000 in dividend payments throughout the year, you can actually contact HMRC to change your tax code, and the tax can be taken straight away from your wages. If you make more than £10,000, then you're better off just filling out the self-assessment form and paying taxes when they are due to HMRC. The other way that you can make money when you're investing, especially recently, a lot of brokers such as Trading 212 allow you to gain interest on any uninvested cash. This is through interest payments. If you're a basic rate taxpayer, then you have £1,000 of personal savings allowance. This means you can make up to £1,000 off interest for money stored in current accounts, savings accounts, and even things such as investment accounts. Now, if you are a higher rate taxpayer, this allowance drops to £500, and if you are lucky enough to be an additional rate taxpayer, you do not have any of this allowance. So depending on your tax bracket, again, you're liable to be paying tax on any interest on money held that you earn that exceeds your personal savings allowance. As a basic rate taxpayer, you're paying 20% on that. As a higher rate taxpayer, you're paying 40% on that. And as an additional rate taxpayer, you're paying 45% for that. As you can see, tax on interest are very high, and many people aren't really incentivized to be making money in that sort of way. So for example, if you have £1 million and you want to make money through your bank through just interest, if the rates were high, it's not really a great option, as you'll be likely paying a very high amount in just tax. You're probably better off investing in something like the stock market, where capital gains allowance is a whole lot less. If you are unsure whether or not you need to be paying taxes on your investments, you can always contact HMRC or speak to a financial professional. I have a link in the description down below to Unbiased, where you can get financial advice tailored specifically for you, a place where they're not going to say I'm not a financial advisor. When you start, your first appointment is actually free. You can find qualified, independent and regulated professionals here. So if you'd like to use that, use the link in the description down below and the first appointment will be free. So speaking of all these taxes, are there a legal way in which we can try to reduce the amount of tax that we're paying? So luckily in the UK, we have something called individual savings accounts, also known as ISAs or ISAs. There are 4 main types of ISAs. We have the cash ISA, we have the stocks and shares ISA, we have a lifetime ISA, and we have innovative finance ISAs. What these ISAs allow you to do is to put up to £20,000 per year, one of the most generous amounts in the world. Put them within these accounts, and what they act as are tax wrappers. So any gains and dividends earned within these accounts are completely tax-free when you want to withdraw them. £20,000 a year for the most of us is more than what we can actually fill up, essentially making most of our investments tax-free at the point of withdrawal. If you are just an investor, you'd probably just want to look into the stocks and shares ISA, which allows you to actually invest in stocks and shares just as you would in a general investment account, like opening something like Trading 212, InvestEngine, or even Vanguard. I always keep the links to my preferred platform in the description down below. Now, of course, depending on your platform, you might have to pay a fee for these ISAs, but essentially when you have these ISAs, you do not have to pay any capital gains tax, you don't have to pay any dividend tax, and you also don't have to pay any tax on interest made on uninvested cash. However, there are still some stuff that you might have to pay within a stocks and shares ISA. The first is if you're investing in international companies such as companies in the USA, there is a withholding tax that you can't avoid, I'm afraid. If you're investing in British companies, you still have to pay stamp duty tax, and that is at 0.5%. ISAs are also more strictly regulated than general investment accounts, and for that reason you can't invest in the whole range of products that you can in other accounts. For example, contract for differences. I personally think that's a bonus anyway, but if you're investing in most ETFs, these don't really come with many fees apart from the actual management fees, which you can't get away with in any ETF. So as an investor, this is not tax advice, but I would be looking at maximizing your stocks and shares ISA contributions at or around the same time where you're actually depositing money into your pension, because also with a pension there are tax reliefs when you deposit your money. So if you're a basic rate taxpayer and pay 20%, instead of paying that money to tax, if you put your money within a pension, you essentially get an automatic tax relief of 20%. But make sure to check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you in the next video.